In this video, we're going to show how you can enable your Arduino to work in the cloud using the TapIn service. And we're going to assume that you have some familiarity with TapIn. If not, you can go to our main web page and there'll be some videos which introduce TapIn to you. We're also going to go through a demo with a real Arduino system, and all of the code that is required to execute everything you're going to see on this video is available. So please go to our resources link and you'll be able to access all of the samples that we're going to show you here, as well as the base code for the Arduino, which we've open sourced on GitHub. When we say we're going to cloud enable your Arduino, what do we mean by that? Well, to us it means a couple of different things. One is that you'll be able to control your Arduino from the cloud. So if you want to initiate an action on your Arduino, and rather than going and accessing it directly, you can just use the cloud to start, stop, control your Arduino. The other thing you can do is reprogram the function of your Arduino using the TapIn service. Now, reprogram does not mean what typically Arduino, the Arduino definition, which is to reload the microcode into the controller. We can actually show a method which lets you change the function of the Arduino dynamically from the cloud without having to reboot your Arduino. So we'll show you an example of that. I think the main value that we provide is to allow your Arduino to work with other cloud-based services or other devices. So your Arduino is not a standalone device. It can work with a number of different services, which we'll demonstrate to you. And finally, a valuable function to have for your Arduino is to trigger a cloud process, meaning there's a number of powerful things that you can do with TapIn. And one thing you might want to do with your Arduino is execute those processes from your Arduino. For example, if your Arduino is a sensor and you want it to do a notification when it triggers based on some event that it is monitoring, we can very easily do that with TapIn. And basically the whole theme is to look at what your Arduino is doing and have it work collaboratively between your hardware device and the cloud. So we believe that will greatly enhance the value and functionality of what you're trying to achieve with the Arduino. We're going to be going through a demo, and just to show you what the system configuration is, here's a diagram which shows that in the cloud we have the TapIn service, and in your user account you have a number of different TapIn action plans or taps, which are process models which will execute. Those process models can control the Arduino, and you create those taps using our service. Now, within the tap, we have the capability to talk directly to the Arduino. There are a number of different parts needed to do that. On the Arduino itself, you will need to support a configuration which includes the TapIn CPX code. Again, that code is available on open source via the link I previously showed you. The other thing you need is to have your Arduino be accessible to the internet. The configuration that we're using is using a Wi-Fi shield, which is configured on top of the Arduino, which will talk to the cloud. It talks to an endpoint in the cloud, which we call the Arduino proxy, and that enables the communication back from the tap to the Arduino and vice versa. Of course, the cloud configuration is all done via browser, as with all of our tap services. Now let's take a look at the configuration of the Arduino itself. Now, the details of this configuration are outlined in the documentation via our resources link. Uh, but this particular picture is the Arduino we're going to use for our demo. It's basically, as I mentioned before, Arduino with a Wi-Fi shield. It's got a couple different components on it, a green LED, a red LED, and an RGB lamp, which allows us to control the color. And so this is just a prototype which I put together, which we're going to use for our demo. Once you've got your Arduino hardware set up, to actually load the TapIn Arduino code is very straightforward. Just download the standard Arduino IDE development kit, and from the development kit, use the import library function to add the library. Click add library and then select the CPX code that you've downloaded. And after you do that, it will show up in this library list as CPX. Once that is there, we have a sample which we're going to use in our demo today, which if you go through is called doohickey. And so just open that and you'll see a window that pops up that shows the code there. Again, check the documentation, and the thing you may need to do is change the pin settings based on your specific configuration. So that may be the only thing you need to change. Once you do that, you can upload and the code, compile and upload the code to load this code into the Arduino. So once you do that, the doohickey code will automatically start up and try to connect to your Wi-Fi. Now you'll probably need to change that in order to meet your Wi-Fi configuration to connect to your access point. And to do that, just open up the serial monitor, and we're going through a boot up process right now, which is shown by the flashing lights here. And in the serial port, you'll see the credentials for the Wi-Fi settings, and you can just interrupt that by hitting the bang and send, and then you will be prompted to enter your own Wi-Fi credentials. Once you do that, those credentials will be saved, and the next time you start up your Arduino, it will use those Wi-Fi settings. So again, very straightforward. Download the code, compile it, load it, start it, go through a configuration process to define your own Wi-Fi access point information, and that's all you need. So now we're ready to show cloud control of the Arduino. So I'm logged into my TapIn service account, and in our store we have a number of different sample taps which you can try. They're listed here. And let's go through a simple one first, just to show how TapIn can control the Arduino. So I'm going to go look at the one labeled test 1, which is just a simple turning of the LEDs on and off within the service. I'm going to use the process editor so we can see the details of this tap. And so I'm just going to execute this. So I hit the test, I hit execute, and what this tap will do is just very simply turn the red LED on. It's going to wait 5 seconds and then turn the LED off. As you can see, this the Arduino actually executing those commands. So what we've shown very simply here is this tap, which is defined in the cloud, communicating to the Arduino and executing specific commands. So you may ask, what specific commands can be executed? And let's show that. So if I hit the edit key and look at this particular place, which turns the LED on, we've implemented a special Arduino place called Arduino commands. In here, you can execute commands to your specific Arduino. When you register for this thing, you define what devices you want to communicate with, and we assign an ID to that. You can add as many devices as you want, and once you do that, they will show up in this particular list. Again, all the details are in the documentation. Once this is defined and you select a device, you can execute any number of commands to the Arduino just by modifying this place. The command we've issued here is a digital write to a pin setting which controls a digital output. That particular output, which is pin 6, is mapped to the red LED. So just by executing this command, I can turn the pin for the red LED on. And so after this executes, the LED turns on. And then I go through my standard TapIn cloud place, which just waits. And then similarly, to turn it off, I click here, and then pin 6 to off. So very simply, what we've shown here is from the cloud, you can control specific settings, hardware settings on your Arduino. And note that I can go in and modify this place just as I would any other place to change the commands that get sent to the Arduino. Let's take a look at some other control taps. So I go back to my tap list. We'll show you another example, the test 2, which goes into a little bit more complex action. And again, I'm going to go into my process editor. Here, I'm going to flash the LED, wait 15 seconds, stop. Then, if you remember, I also have an RGB lamp connected to the Arduino. I'm going to wait and then I'm going to turn it off. So let's take a look at how this would work. I'm going to execute this right now. So as you can see, the LED red light is now flashing. It's going to stay there for 15 seconds. And then we're going to stop it by executing the command to stop the flash. Now we're in this wait mode. As you can see, the RGB lamp turned on, and now we're going to turn it off. Now let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail because there is some complexity involved in this one. If I look at the flash LED place, unlike the previous example, this is a little bit more complicated. Here we're actually executing not just a single command but a series command. So from the place you can execute a series of commands to perform. Here executing the command to turn the light on, then I'm going through a loop with a 500 millisecond wait in between, and it's going to continue to go through this loop, and that's what the flashing, this is what causes the flashing sequence. Then after we do that, we halt it, and then we set the RGB lamp. And again, as opposed to a digital write, this is an analog write, and we're setting the R, the G, and the B pins to specific values. And again, you can use this to control the colors of the RGB lamp. So what's shown here is just kind of another level of sophistication, which is controlling different kinds of commands out to different ports on the Arduino. And again, you can change these in the cloud and they are executed dynamically. We can take a look at all of the different commands that are available. By looking at this page in our documentation, we see what commands we can execute using the CPX code that we've downloaded. So controlling pins, controlling memory, writing and reading from registers, some simple control logic, math functions are all that you can execute just using the source that you've downloaded. So all these commands are available. Now, we have in our documentation examples where you can extend this. So if you've created an Arduino to do something specific and you want to add your own method here, you can do that just by adding to the code that we've already provided for you. So now let's show a little bit more sophisticated example. I'm going to go back to my tab list and show how you can integrate the Arduino with other things. Let's take a look at this Arduino Nest example. Now in this particular case, I have got a Nest thermostat. So that's a thermostat, a smart thermostat, which lets you remotely control read and control your thermostat settings in your home. So TapIn has implemented the official API to the Nest, so we can perform these functions from a tap, and to execute that, I can just execute this. In this particular case, I'm going to get my Nest thermostat data, And if the temperature is less than a threshold, I'm going to turn the LED on my Arduino on. I'm also going to email me the data that I've extracted from my nest, and that will end the plan. If I don't exceed my threshold, I'm not going to do anything. So I've set a fairly high threshold just to make sure that we execute. So I can execute this tap right from here. And as it executes, you'll see that I've gotten my data, it's exceeded it, and it's emailed me the data. And here's the email that was sent to me, which is showing my current nest settings. And so you can see how using this technique, if you wanted to, if your Arduino was something that was related to temperature control or controlling your devices, you can integrate the nest settings with Arduino and messaging. So this is, I think, a very powerful technique which can be used to integrate not just one but multiple devices into your process. And again, you can do it very easily. All of this, in fact, this particular sample was done just using our standard downloaded source code and our doohickey code, and no additional coding required in order to implement this, and all controlled from the cloud. So hopefully what you've seen from this demo is a way to really extend the functionality of your Arduino by making it work better with the cloud. And there's a number of ways you can even go beyond what we've shown here. I think we've just really scratched the surface of what we can do. Certainly, just with everything we've shown you here, you can create a lot more taps in the cloud to control your Arduino, to make it work in more interesting ways. And again, using the CPX protocol, there's quite a lot you can do just by creating new taps in the cloud using the same code that we provided. And we've shown how you can coordinate between your device and other hardware devices, but also perhaps you've created multiple nodes of your device. If you've got a sensor, maybe one of the things you might want to do is coordinate how your multiple sensors would work. So certainly you can do that with a tap that would coordinate activity between multiple instances of your Arduino device. And or other services. The other things that TapIn integrates with is not only other IoT, Internet of Things type devices, but other services like different kinds of messaging, SMS text messaging, news services, social media. So whatever it is you're looking at to work with your Arduino, there's a good chance we've got that interface already written. And so again, you don't have to write that code yourself. You can reprogram the function of your Arduino based on different scenarios using just the CPX commands. And of course, you can add your own CPX methods by modifying our source and to meet whatever specific function your CPX, your Arduino is oriented to do. And we haven't demoed this, but this is well shown in the documentation that you can use your Arduino to trigger any tap that you create in the TapIn service. So whatever complex process you want to trigger off based on your Arduino, you can do that. And we've shown in our samples how you can do that very easily. So that's it. Hope you've enjoyed this video. I think we've got some very powerful features here. And if you have any questions about other things that you might need or how to make our service work better with your project, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.